GT cars are something we should all be playing about with in Test Drive Unlimited. You guys already know how much of a fan I am of the Bentley GT Continental. I think this car is absolutely fantastic. But there's one car, time and time again, whenever I do race with the GT Continental, always pops up and always does tend to give us a bit of a challenge. In today's video, like you guys will have seen from the thumbnail, I am going to explore this one, and it is of course the Mercedes-Benz GTR AMG. Now, this car is set to be phenomenal, and I want to understand just how good this one is in game. So we have of course headed over to the German performance dealership to pick us up a GTR. Moving over to the Chanwai workshop, I have obviously done some upgrades to this to get it ready for one very specific race. Launching off the GTR here, I am very sceptical about them. I have typically stayed away from the Mercedes-Benz in game. The back end of Mercedes typically are very leery and they're very difficult to control. But things I have seen with the GTR is it is purposely built for racing, of course it is, and it handles fantastically well. I am still pretty cautious here of the rear end of it. I am very fearful of it stepping out on us at any given moment. Coming around that little right hander there, we can see it does grab the road fairly well. So there's only one thing I want to do with this car, and it's head over to the Crown Jewel Amethyst race. This of course is one of the big races in game, and I want to see how this one does perform. And it does seem like this is racing stripes galore with Mustangs, Ford GTs and the little racing stripes we have put on the GTR. Let's get this race started, launch the GTR off the line, and it does launch fantastically well. Into the left-hander, we know we've got a nice little tricky right-hander here. It's nice and short, this car. We can drop it underneath the little hangover of the podium on the right-hand side there. But as we do negotiate those first two corners, avoiding the AI, which time and time again collide with one another, we lift ever so slightly through that big sweeping right-hander there, and we tidy ourselves up through the left-hander, right-hander here, claiming out the first lamppost for this video. It wouldn't be a video on my channel without claiming lampposts. Taking that left-hander, we always kind of take a little bit of curb there. We can go quite close to the front of that lorry cab, and now we can get rid of that messy part of the course here. I don't love how that race starts. There's so much street furniture, just like we've collided more there and took out our second lamppost. I don't like just how much street furniture there is, but we've managed to push through it, guys, and we have managed to stretch ourselves away from the rest of the AI, taking out yet another lamppost on that left-hander, getting the power down here in the GTR. It is a very powerful car, and now the first test for this one. How is the back end going to hold through this big sweeping left-hander? And as we can see, the back end is absolutely planted to the ground, and it's really surprising me just how that is handling. I did expect that one to step out and we would be drifting around that entire left-hander. Not the case here. This thing seems absolutely ridiculous. A bit leery through that left-hander. I won't dismiss that one, as we do get a bit cautious down through the tight right-hander there. I am very surprised just how well this back end does, kind of handle the course here. I did expect it to step out. Yes, a little bit of a tricky section, a few corners back there, but overall the handling of the GTR is absolutely fantastic. Right-hander, left-hander, nice little right-hander here, negotiating the tighter turns. The GTR handling it fantastically well. Another tight 90-degree right-hander there, clipping the curb and the back end stepping out on us. Left-hander once again clipping the curb and the back end stepping out. So we can see what we need to avoid with the Mercedes-Benz GTR. We need to avoid curbs. Hitting those curbs, the back end is going to step out. Enough of that. Let's get the power down. We've got a nice little right-hander here. We're probably going to collide with another curb. We actually don't do too bad with that one. We can now stretch out here. What's our lead on the rest of the pack? We'll find out shortly through this little right-hander across the checkpoint. And we're already 11.72 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack. A little left hand there, we do take out some railings. It doesn't slow us down all too much, and we can really push forward with this one. Get the power down in the GTR. It does handle fantastically well. We want to cross over the track there so we can get through that little chicane just there. It is quite a tricky one if we're on the wrong side of the central reservation. Now we can sweep this one through the right-hander. We've got another tight 90-degree right-hander up ahead. There is a shortcut that we did unfortunately miss just there. We could have cut off a couple of seconds of our race time as we do get unsettled through that right, left, right section. But we've got through it. largely unscathed there until we do come into here, we outbrake ourselves, we overcommit, and we do collide with the house. But largely it's not affecting us all too much, still 10 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack. Again, not all too much of a challenge here. We will take a bit of a shortcut through the gas station and we will get the power down in this GTR. Let's just see what this has for us. What kind of speeds do we manage to achieve in the GTR through this little freeway section? 150 miles per hour, up towards 160, hard on the brakes. Again, there's a little shortcut through the gas station there, but this one catching me out again, that quick left-hander through this little alleyway, where I do think we collide with every possible obstacle in our way as we do come through that little alleyway section. But nonetheless, again, 12.4 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack. We are handling this race fantastically well, and that's largely down to the handling of this GTR. I cannot stress just how surprised I am with how well this thing handles, especially being in this game with a rear wheel drive car. I am absolutely stunned with how well this thing manages to put the power down after some tight, tricky corners. And as we do get the power down, once again we can stretch the legs of the GTR up towards 170 miles per hour before a heavy braking zone into a 90-degree left-hander, take out those railings. It won't slow us down too much, and then we can start to cut across here, another gas station that we can cut through for a little shortcut, but we do make a bit of a meal of that one as we hit the building. Left-hander into another right-hander, no shortcut available just there. We do cut through the central reservation, through the little gap of the shrubbery, as we can now push up into our next right-hander on the roundabout. Now we do approach this far too tight. We should have been on the left side there to stretch that open coming onto that roundabout section, again losing a couple of seconds there. But we heavy braking into this right-hander, avoiding the wall on the right-hand side there. I have caught that one quite a few times when I have done this race. Overall, the GTR carrying me through this race here. Phenomenal braking, I cannot stress that one enough, just as well as this puts power down through the back end coming out of corners. The braking on this GTR is sensational. Now I have upped the braking pressure to around about 500%, and I have put the bias to around about 75%. So changing the braking a little bit more is something I typically do with all of the cars when I tune them. It's up the brake pressure and up the bias, and we can see just how well it balances the GTR. I cannot stress just how good the braking is on this Mercedes. Enough of that, let's push forward, guys. Down through here, fully committing through this little left-hander. We do catch a curb and it does unsettle the GTR. We do take out those railings and we do lose momentum. Not fantastic, but again, we do manage to come through it largely unscathed, saving ourselves from spinning out and essentially coming to a dead stop. So yeah, there can be some points where I tied up this race, but overall, you can see this GTR is absolutely sensational as we just avoid contact with the wall there, overcommitting through the big sweeping right-hander, just avoiding contact with that central reservation. Down through this section, how are we going to handle this fast flowing right? It actually handles it largely very well. Again, another one I was very cautious with the back end stepping out. We know when we move up towards the hypercars, the back end is just so leery across them. I did feel the Mercedes was going to come to the same fate, but it does not. As we get a bit of misdirection, I thought we were going left there, but we turned right, catch him out just a little bit. But again, we're still doing alright. Tight right-hander just here. I cannot stress, guys, you have to experience the Mercedes GTR here. These fast flowing or fast coming at us left and right sections is absolutely fantastic through them. Taking out a tree there, losing again a bit of momentum, and it obviously puts us off as we come up this little section here. Left-hander, right-hander, we can cut across here, and it does seem like the AI are catching us just a little bit. We're only 3 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack now. So with us having that little misdirection, taking out some trees, we have lost a bit of the ground that we had built up to the AI. We've stretched out to around about 4.9 seconds now. We really need to tide ourselves up through the remaining parts of this race if we want to win this one. Heavy braking zone into this left-hander. Keep it nice and tight, stay on the left-hand side as we come up through this big sweeping right-hand section, again getting the power down here fantastically well in the GTR. So unbelievably surprised that the back end is not stepping out on us through those fast flowing rights and lefts. Cannot stress, I say that so many times, I cannot stress how well this thing puts the power down, and I'm so surprised that the back end does not step out on us time and time again. Crossing over the freeway section here, as we do know we're coming up into the little slalom section of the Amethyst race here. A little bit cautious coming into the little tight right-hander, but we can now pin this down to the right-hand hairpin that we do have coming up here. expecting a massive power slide, and we don't get it here in the GTR. Simply fantastic. Putting the power down, the back end not stepping out. We can see it here once again on the left hand hairpin as we do come down into the right hand 90 degree. The back end just does not step out on this car. I am so surprised with this one. We obviously take out our central reservation. Those barriers there are something we didn't avoid. But I just cannot simply stress how fantastic this car is. The back end doesn't step out when we put the power down. The braking is absolutely fantastic, guys. I seriously urge you all to jump into this, the Mercedes GTR rather, and experience this one. Last heavy braking zone into the right hand section just there. We know we've got the last right hander right here as we push through, cross the line, take out first place with the Ford GT coming through in second. So I did say it quite a few times, apologies for repeating myself several times throughout today's video, but this car is absolutely fantastic. Another one I'm actually quite disappointed I've not used sooner. It's a Mercedes, it's rear wheel drive. I expected this to be unbelievably leery, but as we've seen from that race, the Crown Jewel Amethyst, this thing is absolutely fantastic, guys. I do hope you get a chance to jump into the GTR and see just how good it is. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, guys. Before you leave today, please do smash that like button, subscribe, tap on the bell, leave me a little comment as well, help feed that YouTube algorithm, and yeah, stay tuned for more content on Test Drive Unlimited. Solar Crown.